My father-in-law left me his entire estate instead of his own children, so they're claiming I manipulated a dying man. The accusation started 3 days after Theodore's funeral. I was still wearing the black dress I'd bought for Camden's service 2 years earlier when the lawyer called. There's been a development, he said carefully. Bryce and Kendra are contesting the will. I wasn't surprised. At the reading, when Theodore's children learned their father had left his $2.3 million estate to his dead son's widow instead of them, Kendra's face went white with rage. This is impossible, she'd hissed. Dad was confused, medicated. She manipulated him. Bryce just stared at me with cold calculation. We'll be in touch, he said as they stormed out. Theodore and I had gotten close after Camden died. My husband was only 34 when the heart attack took him, leaving me a 29-year-old widow drowning in grief and medical bills. While Bryce and Kendra lived their busy lives in other states, I was the one who drove Theodore to chemo appointments, organized his medications, and held his hand during the worst nights. You're the daughter I never had, he'd tell me. Bryce only calls when he needs money, and Kendra hasn't visited in 3 years. It was true. During Theodore's entire cancer battle, Bryce visited twice and Kendra sent flowers once. I slept in the hospital chair during his worst episodes, learned to manage his pain pump, and researched experimental treatments when the doctors ran out of options. The manipulation accusations hurt because they weren't entirely baseless. I had influenced Theodore's decision, just not how they imagined. It started 6 months before he died, when Theodore asked me about my financial situation. I'd been honest about the medical debt from Camden's final months, how I was working double shifts as a dental hygienist just to stay afloat. Camden would want me to take care of you, he said. Let me help. I refused his offers of money, but Theodore was persistent, strategic. He started small, paying for groceries, covering my car repair, insisting it was what Camden would have wanted. Each time I protested, he'd get that stubborn look that reminded me so much of my dead husband. Then came the conversation that changed everything. Theodore had just finished a particularly brutal round of chemo. We were sitting in his hospital room when he brought up his will. Bryce and Kendra don't need my money, he said quietly. Bryce makes 6 figures in tech. Kendra married that hedge fund manager. But he trailed off, but I knew what he meant. I was struggling while his biological children lived comfortably, rarely bothering to check on their dying father. I want to change my will, he announced. Leave everything to you? Theodore, no, I said immediately. That's not right. They're your children. Are they? He asked bitterly. When's the last time either of them called just to talk? When have they ever put my needs before their convenience? I spent 3 weeks trying to talk him out of it. I suggested splitting the estate, leaving me a smaller portion. But Theodore was adamant. You've been more family to me in 2 years than they've been in decades, he said. This is my decision. The day he signed the new will, I felt sick with guilt. Not because I'd manipulated him, but because part of me was relieved. Camden's medical bills had destroyed my credit. I was facing bankruptcy. Now, looking at the legal papers Bryce and Kendra had filed, I saw their strategy. They claimed I'd isolated Theodore from his family, influenced him while he was on pain medication, and exploited his grief over Camden's death. The worst part? Some of it sounded plausible, even to me. But what they didn't know was that Theodore had anticipated this fight. 3 days before he died, barely conscious from the morphine, he'd grabbed my hand with surprising strength. In my desk, he whispered, "Bottom drawer, hidden compartment." I'd thought it was delirium, but after reading their legal filing, I knew I had to check. What I found in that hidden compartment would change everything about this inheritance battle. I couldn't fit what happens next in this short video. Watch the rest down below.